Let's start with introduction. Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Today, this is a meeting of the Building and Finance Subcommittee of the Gloucester School Committee. Today is Monday, December 18th, 2023, and the time is 5:03 p.m. We are meeting here in person at the Gloucester High School Library, located at 32 Leslie O. Johnson Road in Gloucester, Mass. Effective August 16th, 2023. The public is welcome to attend in person. Alternatively, the public may attend through the Zoom link listed on the agenda. Meeting notice will reflect if the meeting is Zoom only. As the recent amendments to the open meeting law allows, the subcommittee may continue to hold meetings remotely. Please note the in-person meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the remote connection. So we're going to start with introductions, and we'll start on this side of the room, please.
Good evening, Stephanie Frontiera, Director of Finance.
Gary Fresh, Chief Financial Officer.
Ben Wilmer, Superintendent.
Melissa Texera Prince, School Committee Member.
Kathy Clancy, School Committee Member.
Wendy Ng, Food Service Director.
Michael Titus, Principal of O'Malley Middle School.
Tim Baker, Project Manager, Left Field.
Maria Puglisi, Recording Secretary.
Thank you. Member Bill Melvin will be joining us by Zoom, I believe, a little bit later in the meeting. So I don't know if I heard that we're going to shuffle the agenda a little bit.
No, we're
Okay.
gonna,
Start with the Chief Financial
Tim, are
Officer.
you ready to go?
No, not yet. The internet, not getting on the internet is making it difficult. Our system.
oh, well, you can,
I can show the one before and he can point out the differences if that's okay.
oh, didn't he save it on the stick and give it to you?
No, he can't get on the internet to do that.
Do you even save it to a stick?
So when I couldn't get on the internet, it crashed my computer, so I don't have it open now.
Do you need this?
That-
No,
We can go to,
let's start with Wendy.
Wendy.
On that. And we're gonna, so Melissa, it's okay if we?
Yeah. What we need to do, so we're gonna do the food service presentation?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And Maria, pull that up. You ready to go? What's your ready to go?
Please ready.
Silly question. All right, it's my great pleasure to introduce Wendy Ng. It's the first time at a school committee meeting or subcommittee meeting. They've been asking for you to come for quite a while, okay? And I kept on saying it will happen, I promise. And so here's the big reveal.
Oh, wow.
Wendy Ng, our new First Director, she started off really very strong, and she's gonna be focusing on giving an update tonight and with plenty of evidence of that strong start. So thank you, Wendy. Disintegrated. It's a separate.
Yeah, it's a separate presentation.
Oh, it's not in this?
No, it's in the it's in the same folder.
it's in called B.
Okay,
Look at the,
hold please.
there you go.
Okay, I gotta go back to share. Okay. Oh, what happened? Oh,
Back.
okay.
There we go.
My mouse.
Go to the next slide.
Yes, please.
Yeah, just tell Maria.
Okay.
There we go.
So quick things about me, I am a registered and licensed dietitian. I'm quadlingual and I started learning Portuguese because when I was hired for Gloucester, I found out there was a lot of Portuguese students. And I've been learning since February, and when I go to East Vets, I can have a conversation with a lot of the Portuguese kids during breakfast and lunch, so that's really cool. I am on the board for School Nutrition Association of Massachusetts. I did my bachelor's at UMass Amherst.
Sorry.
And I'm currently working on my master's at Framingham State. Next slide.
Wait, you gotta explain the.
Oh, yeah, those are the things that I crocheted. And I make them into like meals and food crochet. Takes me like an hour or two to do them. I learn things pretty quick. Next slide, please. So new things for this school year, there's a new director. I know Martha Jo has been here for quite a while, so, and just like everybody else, we all hate change. So with me being the new director, there's a new like kind of culture and dynamic, especially with the new school and having the two schools combined, especially the kitchen staff. But at the new school, there hasn't been any issues, and everyone has welcomed me pretty well, and have taken my new menu ideas with a positive attitude, and they will tell me if things aren't working, and we figure out a way to adjust it. Next slide, please. So we had our fall conference in October for school nutrition, and I was on the closing panel with Rob Leshen, who's the director of the food and nutrition program at DESE, and we discussed CEP, which is community eligible provision, and that is also something new to Gloucester. Now that we are CEP, families do not need to fill out meal application forms, which is less work for families and less admin work on the food service side. On the next slide, these were, so at the conference, there was 3 different districts who had different CEP scenarios. So Gloucester is fully CEP. Watertown only has a few schools, and then Agawam had a few schools too. So this kind of visualizes CEP before and after. And it basically changes the funding source of the reimbursable meals, and you'll see in later slides what I mean. But the orange is funding coming from parents, and the blue is funding from federal, and you can see that after CEP, most of the funding for the reimbursable meals comes from federal.
Then also, but on the right, it's state, right? The orange is state, it becomes state instead of, so parents really, because they're free meals.
Right.
Yeah.
Next slide, please. So the ISP is the identified student percentage. So this is how districts figure out if they are eligible for CEP or not. So before COVID and before school meals were free permanently, you had to be at 50% or more in order to be considered CEP. But with the final rules and meals being permanent, they now dropped the eligibility to 25%. So now a lot of schools can apply to be a CEP district. Gloucester is currently at 50%. And with the push for CEP, it means that all the kids are like, regardless of their income status, they get a free meal. So because CEP is lower now, there's a push for other districts out in mass to participate in it so that students, get that free meal. Next slide. So this is a quick snapshot of the revenue so far. We compared last year's and this year's. You can see from last year versus this year how the federal reimbursement has increased, and that is because of the CEP. So the money for reimbursable meals have been coming more from federal as opposed to state.
And then the lead is the lower right-hand cell, right? So our revenues increased almost $30,000 over the first 4 months compared to a year ago. That's a positive.
And I know it will increase more because I just switched our purchasing collaborative, which does all the bids in order for myself to purchase food, paper supplies, and etc. And it is way less than what we were currently purchasing from.
That's great, that's great news.
Can I just back up a little bit? I'm not fully understanding this, and it could just be my brain. So Gloucester's ISP is 50.38%. That means the total number of students are eligible for this program? Is that what is 50.38?
That means
Represent.
50.38% of Gloucester qualifies for free or reduced.
Okay. And how is that determined if there's no applications?
That was determined last year, so before Martha Jo left, she applied for CEP.
But how,
I think that to answer your question, you know, the SNAP meals.
Yep.
The state knows
who's on it?
who's on it,
Okay,
so they take that information.
so food service inputs information into some portal somewhere with the state. And
State
based
already,
on the names and
Yeah.
some sort of identification, they can determine if that family is eligible based on
right,
that.
Correct.
right.
And so Martha Jo put all this information in last year, and I assume you put in new students' names since then?
Yes.
And they've made a determination that 50% of our student body is eligible.
For free. and
So that
reduced.
means every student's name went into that portal?
Yes.
And now that because we're over that threshold, we get a certain percentage reimbursement,
Correct.
and that comes monthly,
Yes.
And they lower the threshold, so if you remember
the
last year.
25%?
Yeah, I think it was Plum Cove and
Plum.
West Parish or Plum Cove.
I think it was just Plum Cove,
Yeah.
it was
I
35%.
didn't qualify, but since they've lowered the threshold, now everyone qualifies. I mean, now all schools are considered a CEP.
So then we put in what our costs are, and then the federal determines how much of that we get reimbursed? Is that how they're coming up with these monthly figures?
No, at the end of each month, I reconcile the amount of meals served at each school, breakfast and lunch.
Okay,
And based on the meals served, we get back roughly like $3.53. I don't remember the exact number, but it's around that per meal
okay. For every meal,
for lunch. And then breakfast is like $1 something.
and that's for every meal eaten, no matter whether they are eligible or not.
Correct.
Okay,
We're gonna
Because
see,
the state federal program now is paying for all meals. Just like they have, during COVID, but it's a different mechanism, basically, it's CEP mechanism instead
so
of,
the reimbursement's what's different.
where it's coming from, really.
Okay,
Yeah, where it's coming, the source of the funding, really.
And then on the next slide,
Just 1 second, Wendy. So the other thing I'm seeing is, yeah, okay, so. And the only family amounts that pass through our district it's like extra stuff, a la carte.
we currently don't sell a la carte, but we do second meals
Okay.
at the high school, and most of our like other revenue right now is from teachers who buy meals.
you sell like second meals?
Huh?
Do you sell second meal? I mean, do people buy it? Second,
It depends on the day.
okay,
so second meals aren't reimbursable?
And this shows you a snapshot of the amount of meals served thus far. We have seen an increase in breakfast meals, especially at West Parish. And O'Mealy and the high school have been averaging about 380 to 400 meals a day. So that's good news.
and your lunches, you sell more lunches too.
So, August is higher than last year in part because we have more school days in August.
Right.
But then also you see the total for this time of year, is, 30,000 more. But that'll grow over time, obviously, every month, which is great. More meals equals more revenue.
This is an example of some of the meals at the high school. We had, the staff had made chicken broccoli Alfredo. And we had, orange chicken with veggie fried rice. The produce is fresh and it's, from our entitlement plant, given by Desi. So I have pushed the staff to use more fresh produce as opposed to, canned or, stuff like that. And we have been getting positive feedback from the students.
How do you get that feedback?
So at the beginning of the school year, I sent out a survey to all high schoolers, middle schoolers, asking about what they wanted to see more of or less of. And the majority wanted to see more fresh fruit. They wanted to see more vegetarian options. And those were the two main categories. So at the high school, I had invited a couple vendors come do taste tests with the students during lunch. And last month or a couple weeks ago, I had a Dole come in and test jackfruit. And they made jackfruit quesadillas. So jackfruit is a big fruit. It's like this big. And it has the consistency of pulled pork. And it's sweet, but not like too sweet. And surprisingly, a lot of the kids really liked it. So I'm planning to put that on my menu based on their feedback. And I invited another vendor come in and they tested plant-based beef crumble with nachos. And we had them try both of them and students weren't able to tell the difference because the texture was just right. And it wasn't made out of soy like a lot of vegetarian dishes are. So I am looking to put that on our menu as well.
Is there a cost benefit to that? The plant-based meat as opposed to regular meat, is there a cost benefit to serving that? Or is it just a different alternative?
It's just a different alternative, and if students are asking for vegetarian options, I think they're more likely to participate in school lunch, which gives us more meals to serve, which increases revenue.
Thank you.
This is just an example of some of the fruit that we had. On the right is the salad bar at the high school. They cut watermelon, there's strawberries, grapes, pears, and those green plums are called pluots, which is a cross between an apricot and a plum. Next slide. This is something new that I kind of implemented at the high school. So every Friday is pizza day. And the dough comes pre-made, but we have trialed different toppings on the pizza. We tried buffalo chicken. There's a veggie pizza with tomatoes, onions, and spinach. And then there's the taco pizza and the barbecue chicken. The high school kids really like it, even the staff. I was told that the high school staff were like, did this really come from, the kitchen in the cafeteria? So that's a good thing. And they have been enjoying the Pizza Friday. And this is just another example of meals. We did chicken and vegetable dumplings. We did tacos. And they always have the choice of salads. And this is breakfast. It's a whole grain donut and whole grain cereal. And we just dressed up the plain donuts. and they're a big hit at the high school.
Only the roots. Everybody loves the donut.
Loves the donut. Is it cereal on the donut?
Yes,
Nice. That's creative.
and that's
Can you tell me what a day in your life looks like in the school system? Like when you come in from, when you come in the morning to when you're done with your hours? What is Wendy
Well,
doing all day?
every day is different.
Yeah.
It depends who's out, what my staff needs, but I try to get in my office in the morning, spend a couple hours to do paperwork
And where is your office?
at O'Malley.
Okay,
Just off the kitchen. We changed that about the Joe year last year.
okay, because she was at the, other.
She was at, yeah, she was at the district office for a while, for
Okay.
a long time. actually.
And then depending which school will need me, I'll go to that prospective school, but lately I have spending a lot of time at East Veterans because of the new school, new kitchen, and with the new kitchen, a lot of equipment malfunctions that I have to address. And lately I've been dealing with staff shortages, but now I am okay with staff. And I am currently getting ready for a desk review.
May I ask what equipment issues we have at East Veterans?
The first week they had to replace the floors in the walk-ins
Okay,
because they didn't make it wasn't the right material.
okay,
Um,
And it was freezing. And that was because the interior flooring and the exterior floor weren't matching up. So they took out the concrete and replaced it.
okay.
Yeah, that was basically, a cost of the contract, not a cost to us, yeah.
And what else?
most of it is little things like the fridge is not reaching the correct temperature or like circuit breaks. That the custodian can help us with, but the biggest thing right now is our braising pan. I've been in touch with the construction company and they've invited back repair people to take a look at it. And apparently nobody can figure it out, which is a hassle because we use the braising pan to do a lot of our like steaming and cooking. But it's been good so far.
So it's working?
It's working currently.
Okay. Do we have that marked somewhere to make sure that continues to work while it's under warranty?
I'll follow up with Wendy.
You do?
I mean, I will
Okay,
regarding this and make sure that it goes smoothly. If it doesn't, we'll
what,
let you know.
and I'm looking to you as chair of the committee, what date do you sign off that it's been a year for the school? Like, is that the end of the school year or is it a different date? I know like MSBA signs off on the project, everything, but
I think a year is a year from the time to start using that, right?
is it from the time to start using it or from the time they consider it complete, which I think was around the same time, right?
I think it's when you get occupancy, not the
Yeah.
final occupancy, but the initial occupancy.
Okay,
But that's part of what the building committee will keep on, working on.
right,
But that's my understanding.
okay.
It's the additional occupancy. That would for us, I think it was August, I can't quite remember.
I just don't wanna lose track of issues like this, right?
Yeah.
Because while it's under warranty and there's still contingency funds there, it's not working perfectly by 11 months and 29 days, then we need a new one, right? And we don't wanna close it out without knowing that.
And that's the same, and totally agree on that, and have that same, sense of urgency is quite the right word, but there are a few other pieces, some of the floors in
Yeah.
the school that would very well wear out, but we'll sure. Gary will check with Wendy, Gary, and Wendy will check in to make sure that any other concerns in the kitchen that we also follow up with.
Okay.
But no, because that's, DPW ourselves, our project managers, all have on our radar, those types of things.
Yeah, because I'm hearing circuit breakers too, so is the panel big enough, or do we need
Yep.
more juice to it?
Yep.
To run efficiently? Okay. Any more questions? So you spend the day going to the different schools, do you visit every school every day?
No,
I wouldn't expect you to, I was just asking. You sound very motivated, I was gonna be impressed.
I'm not that motivated. I know there are schools who are like, schools who have their routine that I don't need to check on every day.
Yeah,
And there are schools that I do, so it helps that they communicate with me that, you know, what they need and what they don't need.
and you're available all day, either by phone or in person, and when it's not in person, you're in the building somewhere. Great, the food looks great.
Yes, one, but just additional change, we got sorted through the project, the O'Malley Windows project. Is, and also with Grant, helping out, Grant Harris helping out was the. O'Malley didn't have, the O'Malley Kitchen, sorry, didn't have, sort of straightforward access from the exterior to the back of the kitchen for when they had deliveries of guests. Okay, so, we installed new doors there, first of all, exterior door, but then also a camera and an AI phone, so they can, so people can, and a buzzer. Just like we have at the entering to every school, also have one there at the kitchen too.
Gentlemen,
At O'Malley, yeah, because that's the only kitchen I think that has an exterior door in that
I
way.
thought from Cove had something going on down there, they have an exterior door that goes right in their kitchen,
But they might be able to see outside,
okay.
meaning it was a solid door for O'Malley.
Yeah, years ago, there was an issue when we were negotiating the contract, we heard a little bit about the door from Diane.
Haven't heard anything from anyone else on
Okay.
this, but.
So
worth-
it was,
worth
it's
checking.
locking and
Yeah.
you can see through it and safety concerns and all that.
Right, that's what we want to make sure that we have.
Excellent. Welcome. Very nice to meet you. Impressed with the Portuguese. I bet the students are.
Thank you, Wendy. I think it's okay for you to.
How do you say your last name?
It's like ING without the I, so ing,
Name?
ing.
Ing.
Thank you
you.
very much.
I've never had to say that name. No,
Thanks,
so I
Wendy.
appreciate that.
Good job, thank you very much. The next one
How are
is,
you doing, Jim? What do you got?
Okay.
I got it.
you're all set?
How do I open this?
Who's here?
We have Tim Baker from Left Field.
Oh, okay.
He's our
We're doing the
OPM.
accelerated repair project?
Yes, windows and doors.
How do I open this?
Oh, how do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do I open this?
Do you have a PDF or is it PowerPoint?
We're gonna find out. She has a Mac, I have a PC.
How do we get to this?
The,
So what's this?
go to your Finder
Finder.
and it should be this. See file. Like that,
This one.
you have PowerPoint?
See.
Oh, no.
Looks like Tim, or Bill is on,
Oh, there he is.
It's just a video. Yes, that's the
Nope.
video.
yeah.
Just checking, can you hear me okay?
You can.
Okay.
Oh, Bill.
Aye.
Yep, that's good, yes, sir. Okay.
Does that mean no dinner?
No dinner, I just came out of a meeting in Somerville, so I'm sitting in my truck.
We just did food service first, and now we're gonna move on to the window repair project.
Oh, nice.
Marie, just note that Bill Melvin joined the meeting at 5:30.
Thank you.
Okay, who is presenting the window accelerated repair project?
So, you want to start with anything, any comments or just chime in as you go, Mike?
Yeah, no, I think, I'll chime in as we go, and
Yeah.
if you have any questions from my.
Excellent.
Tim Baker is here from Left Field, gives an update both on the project's progress, but also, the project budget. And so we'll start there, and then we do have an update about the project budget, which we'll talk about at the end as well.
So Tim, you're the project manager?
Yes.
Okay.
All yours, Tim.
Okay. So you want to go to the next slide? Just to briefly go over where we are in the project schedule, we have wrapped up phase one. Originally, we had intended for this project to be done in one summer during 2023. However, when we did the bid walk and talked with the contractors, they said kept it to one. Just as a reminder, if we kept it to one summer, they wouldn't bid on it. So it's too much work to do in one summer. So our next steps, we are currently about, if not before Christmas, right after the holidays, gonna place the final order for the clear stories and the media center dome, which is skylight. And then construction will be during summer 2024 with the final project closeout to follow in the fall. And just to briefly give you some update on, I don't know if you've had a chance to go by the school, but on the left are the existing, on the right is the new windows that have gone into the school, so you can just go through these quick.
Existing, formerly existing, because they're the original windows, some of the place.
From 1971.
Yeah.
Yep. Cafeteria. Media center curtain wall in the interior, and then we have it, they look really good on the exterior. If you want to go next slide. If you ever get a chance to go enter in from the Babson entrance, you can actually see them very clearly from across the water now. They really pop. They look pretty good. I will say. This is the photo I was supposed to update if it wasn't raining and I could get a focused photo of it. But what to note that is different if you go there today, those gray doors are not gray. They match the black up top. So they look flush more if you are there today. And they are very good quality doors.
So the same doors, just different color?
They've been painted since that photo was taken.
And what side of the building is that?
That is down by the transportation room in the art.
And we also added a camera and an AI phone for, access and key card access.
What's AI?
AI phone is just a brand. It's the visual phone, the visual intercom system at
The original ring system.
what's that?
It's the original ring system like you have at your home where you can actually see the person ringing.
I'm
And
thinking artificial intelligence. I'm like, okay, what kind
Oh,
of phone is that?
and we also added key card access in a variety of places in the building, including transportation and food service, but also a couple other entrances for staff. So make it easier time to get in rather than just the front door.
So each person's assigned a key, so you know who's getting in and out.
That's why card like you have here. Yep.
Okay.
So with phase one, we are 97% done. The last remaining items, they have to put in a couple of plumbing fixtures for the ADA. Because of the size of the project, it triggered the code for you had to upgrade to an ADA bathroom. Those always tend to linger on these ARP projects, so they should be done this week with punch lists to follow. They just got to install a couple final fixtures and do some other touch-ups.
Can you quickly tell me how this triggers the ADA? I mean, I understand when a project is worth a certain value of the building.
Well,
and
so it's
all
not
that. So
fully
how did
ADA.
this?
So if you trigger 30%, that's full ADA. This is under that. This is basically, you touch enough of the building that you have to make sure if the building doesn't have a handicap accessible bathroom currently, you have to make one. And so the reason this didn't, it was just there were a couple inches. It didn't meet the clearance requirements. And I believe everything else about it was accessible that they could have done without changing the actual footprint of the bathroom. So we actually had to knock down walls to give you the clearance
So
necessary.
because of the cost of the project, it didn't trigger a full
Well,
ADA?
so big that it's construction
partial.
rather than a repair.
Okay.
It's kind of
Yeah.
an easy way to think about it.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily the dollar value, like if it were 30%, the way that it works is 30% of the assessed value of the building. If the project goes beyond that, then you have to bring the entire building up to code. We did not have to do that.
Okay. So they just determined one bathroom?
Yeah, and because the clearance wasn't enough, you actually are getting two bathrooms. One's ADA, one's regular,
Okay.
just because they had to move the wall over.
Yeah,
Did that add an expense to the cost of the
yeah,
project?
this was the largest change order on the project.
Okay.
Because it wasn't like, we didn't have enough, we ran into a wet wall, I think it's right there, so we couldn't. We had to move that wet wall, and
Okay.
moving wet walls was more complicated than moving no walls, basically.
She was expecting when we demoed just the plaster, there was gonna be, we would gain inches, the inches we needed.
Yeah.
And we didn't.
Didn't happen.
It's slightly unusual for an interior structural load bearing wall to have it be built this way.
Do you remember what the cost was for that approximately?
In total or with the change order?
Just the change order?
Change order was 80.
80,000?
Yeah. Because it basically doubled the scope because we're replacing two bathrooms instead of one.
Okay. Thank you.
So again, next phase two will be next summer, and that is the clear stories and the dome. The reason why these were not included is windows lead times have come down. These have not. These, for whatever reason, are still taking a very long time to fabricate. So this actually, as a dollar value, represents less than, I'd say, just less than 15% of the total project cost. So, but it will be it is more technical work. I will say the dome, especially because you have to tie into the existing roof system. So we are finalizing shop drawings, getting all the engineering sign-offs to make sure that they're all meet the code and everything. So that's.
Is it gonna look the same, the dome?
It's not gonna be the wired glass because they don't make glass like that anymore, but it's gonna basically be glass. Yeah,
Very, very similar.
very simple. You're not gonna notice it from the
Okay.
ground.
So you'll see some sort of design to it, it's just not.
It'll
Metal
look
in the
similar to
glass.
that, but it'll look very similar to that. I'm not sure if it has as many,
Metal pieces.
mullions of these lights, what do we call them?
Yeah, well, yeah. She's trying to keep the dome, especially because of its more architectural side, that she's trying not to change that.
Okay.
I won't know the exact answer to that because there's a structural element that the third-party engineers have to sign off on, and that's gonna determine exactly how the partitions are, so I will know that once we get the final shop drawings
Okay.
approved.
The biggest difference is there's wire mesh within the glass this way.
Right.
There's the old way doing safety glass, and but without that there, it'll be better, clearer, obviously, and more transparent.
Yeah. And that's going in the summer?
Yes, as soon as kids have. I don't know, I believe you're all familiar with the O'Malley. Do you need me to go where the locations exactly are in the building or?
I'm familiar with it. Yeah,
So they're basically cafeteria, hallways, and then the media center. We won't be touching as much of the school as we did this summer.
so that's what you put in the windows?
Say that again?
What are you doing to the cafeteria and the media center?
Yeah, so that's where I have, all those areas have
That's
have
where
the
the
skylights,
dome-
if you just go
Oh,
back.
the clear stories, okay.
Yes,
So that's actually a picture of the cafeteria clear stories
Okay.
on the bottom, and then that's I believe the back hallway behind Mike's office.
Okay.
Yep.
I call them skylights, clear stories throws me off.
Yeah, that only matters in that the MSBA reimburses for clear stories and they do not reimburse for skylights.
All right, then we love clear stories.
Clear stories are the best.
My new favorite word.
Just to give you an idea, the dome does have some challenging existing conditions. It is old, there are some cracks in the glass that we are gonna replace, and it's not a huge amount, it is leaking. It is actively leaking. It's not a ton, it's not disruptive, but it's not, it's less than ideal. So that is one thing that will be corrected as part of phase two.
like you'll see, like today, and
Yeah.
then Mike's been above the roof, I have not. And you can see water inside the dome. And then today, days like today, you can see it not dripping down the concrete, but it's wetting the concrete.
Yeah.
So, right, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it.
And DPW has maintained this. The issue is that they tried caulking, but you have to do that on the inside, which you can only do when you disassemble and reassemble. You can't really do it on the exterior because with your existing, your weather conditions in Gloucester, it just gets destroyed very, very quickly. So they have tried to, you know, it's 50 years old and it's reached the end of its life span, so.
How old is it? How old are we like?
71.
71 years?
So you probably can't read that, because I can't read that. Not that have the best vision in the world. Currently to date, we are 74% expended for the project. We have committed 96%. The remaining, which, so all the work for next summer is committed already. What is not committed is the additional administrative costs and our fee, the architects, and abatement monitoring, which is a requirement of law. So those will all be added in the coming weeks as soon as I get all the final numbers from the different stakeholders.
And will that remaining 6% cover those costs?
We're gonna get to that.
We're gonna get to that. So I guess we can get to that now. Well, actually go to the next slide. Because that's just too much to. Yeah.
Did you zoom in?
Yeah, I think you have to zoom out.
No, I mean, no, go zoom out, go to the zoom.
Oh, this, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, you're right. This one. All right, guys.
And then hit try, yeah.
There we go. Give you a quick update with where we are for reimbursement. To date, we have received $1,336,693 from the MSBA. We have submitted that they've only paid us through 3 for whatever reason. We have submitted 6 as to date. So there's still probably another couple million that you're going to be seeing over the next few months coming to the MSBA.
So when you say 3, those are payment requests, so you've had 6 total and they paid 3?
Yes. Seems to be taking a little bit longer than pre-pandemic.
Do we know why?
No, I'm saying across the board, it's not just you.
That's what's happening to these guys as well.
Let's share.
Rick, could you zoom in a little bit on that, please?
So these are the anticipated costs that were from contingency draws, basically. So the ones, so today for phase 1, we have a breakdown on the next page. We've had 168,000 in change orders. The building had various, typically masonry or other concrete related existing conditions that needed to be addressed in order to put the new windows in. So that's between the bathroom and those are probably the bulk of what the change orders comprise. We also, the contractor took more days than we had originally scheduled or carried in the designer's contract for hazardous abatement. So we had to add some additional costs during phase 1 to, basically the law requires you have to have a hygienist out there who monitors the abatement and demolition of the work to make sure it's in accordance with Mass state law. And they have to be there for the duration of the work,
So originally we thought that there wasn't any more hazardous material on site than we expected. No, it just, it was done all in series, essentially across the removal of that, the removal of the prior windows was done all throughout the summer, as opposed to what we originally thought was it was going to be concentrated in like the first month. Okay, and because it would happen all throughout the summer, you had to have the hygienist there every single day, essentially every single day. Yeah.
So for phase 2, per your agreement with the MSBA and your contract with us, we have to provide full-time oversight on the property, which was done by Mark LaFleur last summer. So we have an amendment for next summer because, again, when we built the budget back at schematic design, we only built it to be done. We should our original schedule had us done now. And because we had to make the changes based on the contractor feedback, we have additional services requests, the architect does, and same with the hazardous abatement.
So is that because it went into an extra summer, so it's costing us?
So we lost some
70,000?
some efficiencies when we could have done, you know, they could have had 2 demo crews here on one day, but one that, like, the abatement would only be there one day. Now he's there twice. He's there 2 days.
So because we added the extra summer, it's 170,000 over
Yes.
It's not over, those are built in.
additional, it's built in?
It's it's taken from, it's a contingency drawdown.
Okay,
The additional funds that we are currently talking to the city, I don't know, Ben, you wanna,
Yeah, so let me take it from here. You can see that the uncommitted budget on the top, $357,000, that was the contingency to start with.
Yep.
You also see the anticipated costs from here, essentially draw all that down. Can you go to the next slide? Maria?
2 slides actually.
Next. Here. So, and the remainder of that, so there's the math equation right there.
Yep.
Leaves us with only $9,000 of remaining contingency. So, well, and that isn't, at this point, there's not much of the project to go, but we believe that it would make sense, it's sensible. I mean, there are 2 options here. The city allocates additional dollars for contingency, or we walk away from the dome.
how did we get from 170 to 348?
Go, let's go back.
So I got 70, I'm just looking at the last page where it said 70 and 50 and 50.
So if you look at, with the 168 there on the top of that, those are the change orders, including the bathroom. Sort of, there's 2 different groups of 170.
Yeah. Okay,
So the change orders themselves are 170.
Yeah.
And as you just described yourself, the architect's fees and the hazardous abatement for the second summer is also 170.
got it, thank you.
Yep. And then Maria, if you go forward to actually, I'm sorry, Maria, can you just go back one? Because the detail of the $170,000 on the change orders is on this slide here. And that's the blue table here.
Okay.
You can see that, you know, as there's the largest one is the bathroom changes, and then there's various ones around the masonry, and then smaller ones related to electrical and sort of thing. So that's the detail on the 168 of the change orders. And then we can go to the next slide here, please. So essentially, that leaves us with $9,000 remaining in contingency. That isn't sufficient in terms of a safety factor, in terms of going into the next phase. Now, it is showing that we would end up, just on budget, okay? But it makes sense to have to allocate some additional dollars that could be used for contingency if anything necessary going forward, okay? We hope not, we plan not, but just in case. The other option, so we can allocate those dollars and anticipating not using much of it, not much of it at all, or we can walk away from the dome. The problem with walking away from the dome
It leaks.
is it's 50 years old, it leaks, it's only gonna get more expensive. So,
And I have concerns that
Safety.
it's kind of, that it's rapidly deteriorating, because in talking with these guys at this, 18 months ago, whatever, when this was first starting, there didn't seem to be issues with the dome. And so now just, a year and a half later, I'm seeing the water damage and the leaks, and so that says to me that it's probably not an existing condition. Oh, well, it's just getting kind of wet, it seems to be getting worse. So that's my concern around that.
My guess is when we were 18 months ago, the seals were still holding, and you can see they've been wiped clear off on the exterior. By wind.
So we spoke with John Dunn. He was hoping to be here tonight, couldn't be able to be here tonight, and he can allocate dollars from prior school capital projects that have not been used.
Okay.
Dollars have not been used and weren't necessary, but have already been borrowed. I see.
That's good.
And he understands the logic. We met with him and talked us through with him, and he agrees that the $70,000 for contingency, expecting
How much?
$70,000 to $100,000. I think he's going to do $135,000. I think is available I think only put $100,000 aside. That's really a hedge against any change orders, basically.
So he'll take 100 of the 135 that's available from other school projects, am I hearing that right?
Yeah, they're from older school projects where we still have money available,
Yeah,
basically.
okay.
One's.
It is important to say, we do not anticipate it's more of a safety net, we don't really, we're touching such a small amount of the school that we're not gonna, I knock on wood, but we're not, the issue we experienced in the first phase is we just touched a large percentage of the building, so if you had any existing condition issues on one side, it followed us around the entire length of the building. We're touching less now, so that should in theory be less, but still, we weren't comfortable, which is why we approached Ben here early on.
So with seals broken in the age of it, do we have a safety concern? Should we be doing any support or anything in the meantime?
It's not structurally deficient, the glass itself is wired, so the whole pointer wire glass it doesn't fall. So even if it's cracked, it's designed that, the wire's there to keep it intact. You don't wanna leave it there because the wire can eventually deteriorate if it's open to the conditions, but that's, they built it as they should have back in the day, so it's just 50 years old, that's pretty much what it comes down to. And it's in a very, Gloucester weather is not friendly to
Right.
building materials, so.
As we know with our roofs too.
Yeah, it was small. Well, we're delivering.
What is the average, is 50 years approximately the time frame people replace windows, or is it a little earlier?
So the MSBI, I'm trying to remember, they just changed it, I believe windows are either 30 or 35 years, they won't do it before then, so this is definitely
Beyond, but
beyond that. The big issue that I told Ben and Gary is that the school was constructed before the oil embargo of the 70s and all of those issues, which is when people really focused on energy. So your windows are very inefficient, they were.
Right.
So that's one of the issues.
Bill Melvin, do you have any questions?
No, I think just listening, I got the grasp of it and it makes sense to me. So the city's gonna kind of boost up that contingency fund for possible unforeseen issues in the summer of 2024. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, exactly right.
Okay, that's the main thing. I mean, and I don't see us button up against that. I mean, like the gentleman said, there's not that much work left to be done. So my only question is the dome. Is it really worth, do we need a dome that
Yes.
fancy? But I don't know. It sounds like it's a done deal, so might as well go.
yes, we need a dome. We need natural light in that building.
Exactly.
And I can't imagine we'd be saving.
Well, and if that's the issue,
You're
if
gonna
we
fill
did
it
take
in,
it out, we
no.
still have to put a roof in
Right.
its place, which would not be very simple.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
And it's not just the dome in the second phase, it's the other
The clear
Lighter.
storage.
Clear storage.
clear stories as well.
Yeah.
So that's only one piece.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
piece, but-
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion or anything
No.
for the city? That's all you're.
Yeah, because it's already been approved.
Okay.
The city has got.
Yeah, we planned on replacing the dome.
No, we don't need a motion in terms of the identifying visual contingency, because we've already recommended to the city council approved it, now it's under the administration to. Find out, yeah.
Got
figure out that.
but I'm hearing that you're ordering this after Christmas, so do we have enough of an agreement to move forward to put the order in?
The contractor's
next
been
week.
giving their marching orders, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good sign.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, one other thing to know about is that the weekly storms have definitely uncovered some leaks or either really brought to attention leaks that I think were pre-existing at O'Malley. This is unrelated to the building, to the windows, by the way. It's something, that Tim knows I keep on harping on, because I don't want them, you can't have them attached to them, you can't be connected with those. But we also know that these are leaks that have pre-existed this fall because of some of the things we've seen, where they have been. So just in case you hear about this, it's something that Mike is spending more time than he'd like that way.
It's an accurate statement.
And I'm spending, some bit of my time as well, but DPW has been responsive, has been up on the roof, and he made some minor adjustments last week. It looks like it's a masonry issue.
Yeah, again, because I know that my understanding is that the roof is relatively new. That was the first concern, was that it's actually the roof leaking, and that doesn't seem to be the case. Because of the design of the building, there's multiple roofs, so when you go up onto one, and actually when you, to get onto the roof that has the dome, it's at a different level than the first roof, so, yeah, what was that, about a 5-foot wall, it's about 5 feet, of 5 to 6 feet of concrete, that kind of around, that's, again, been dealing with those Gloucester storms for 6 years, and it's starting to become, permeable.
Okay.
And so when it's windswept, it's finding its way into cracks, and it's coming through that, so not the roof,
It's not the seagull's fault.
no, no.
So which
We
one
had
is
that
your,
problem once.
yeah, no, I have heard, but I want you to know, something, you folks are know, and certainly, work with DPW to understand, like, that's a priority now, to address that. Probably have to make temporary fixes for now, until we get to better weather, but definitely want them to pay close attention to
Does
it.
that require something that goes into that online system so they can manage the time on it?
In terms of, work
Work
tickets,
orders,
yeah,
Yeah, so we put in a work order for it, they came, I think it was within 24 hours.
Yeah.
And the first step was they noticed some cracks, and I guess at some point, an access ladder had been moved or taken out and a different one was installed, but they never filled in the holes. So again, you had pulling into the concrete, so they did some patchworking, with, they used some sort of compound. Obviously, we had a ton of rain today, it was better, than before, but it wasn't perfect. And so they did come back again today to check on it. And I think their temporary plan is put some sort of, once the weather's nicer, like a paint across that whole surface to just kind of seal it off a little bit more. But they were both, pretty confident that those are all temporary fixes that, just ultimately it'll probably end up being a capital project that we need to invest in and just like really do the masonry repair. That is a little bit beyond what they would, their role. But they're working on, helping us through, so that's good.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else on O'Malley or the windows?
They're definitely not leaking, because I want to make sure, I ran around the whole building today and they're doing their job, so.
Good.
That's good.
How about heat efficiency? Do we feel that?
Yeah, I mean,
They have to be, no.
I don't have anything to compare it to, just in that, it was my first, winter there, but, I haven't received any complaints about, the climate in rooms,
You're still wear a jacket in the media center.
yeah, I mean, this is what I wear
Yeah.
there, I'm comfortable everywhere,
In the media center too?
yeah.
Okay.
That's where I noticed it was against the old
Yeah,
curtain
it was
wall
cold.
windows.
Yeah, right, concerns in the beginning of the year because of heat, but that was in the windows. And certainly what I've heard and just talking about folks is, there were cracks. I mean, I don't mean like broken, I mean, there were like between the frames and the walls, there were, wind could come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist anymore, so
Yeah,
that's.
and I think there's like maybe 2 exterior stairwells that go from the, second floor to the third, where it's a little chilly, but they're really just access stairwells, so there's no heating in there, right? Again, it's just a place where kids can transfer, and then there's fire doors, right? So I don't think that's a window issue, I just think that's like, it's not really meant to be heated. So as soon as you get into the corridor, it's nice.
Right.
They do, part of the testing is they do water testing, which is where they basically turn a fire hose onto the windows for an extended period of time.
Right.
So it's a pretty good indication that they're not gonna leak in a rainstorm.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks,
for your
Tim.
time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
Moving on to
The,
special ed,
right,
and transportation.
yes,
So maybe you pull up the CFO report up, please.
which is C.
Letter C.
Love to.
Enjoy your night. Thank you.
Thank you, you as well.
Yep.
If you want to scroll down to slide number 4. Yes, thank you. So this is our special ed. You've seen this for tuition contracts. We keep that up to date every month. And in December, we had an increase of $400,000, $395,000 to be close to be exact. And so we added that to the November estimate, and it's $5,065,000 is where we're at now, which is about $616,000 greater than budget. So our remedy, we looked at, we got 4 different remedies we're looking at. Circuit breaker extraordinary relief is number 1. We'll apply for that in March. And if our expenses exceed 25%, we should get a portion of the excess over 25%. It's dependent upon how many districts submit claims and how much money they have budgeted. So we really can't bank on that, but that's a source, potential source.
You said in March?
March. Yes.
Okay.
Number 2, potentially requesting supplemental budget appropriation. That's always an option each year. Number 3, tapping into the contingency and circuit breaker balance. When we do that, that's going to reduce the funds for FY25. So
I thought we got circuit breaker money every year.
we do. We get it every year. We usually supplement those. We usually bank the circuit breaker money we receive in any one year.
So how much did we receive circuit breaker last year? Is that any of these?
Last year was $1,274,000.
What's the balance in it now?
The balance is $466,000. And
then the contingency is another 200?
we have school committee contingency of 200
And then special ed?
and special ed contingency of 250. That's part of the prepaid tuition for next year. Let's move on to the next slide. So here's just some bullet points for you. Some of this we just covered. Out of district tuition last month, increased $395,000. Out of district transportation did not increase. Our fund balance, as we just said a minute ago, is in our circuit breaker is $466,000. And that's available for prepaid. FY24 circuit breaker was finalized this year for this year's money coming in, $1,855,000. So this year it's $1,855,000, and the reason is we have more special ed claims last year, so more expenses means we're going to receive more money the following year. Transportation also was eligible for a circuit breaker. And they ran, DESI wasn't able to fund all the requests for transportation.
You know why?
Yeah, they just ran out of money.
This is what they used to do with circuit breaker for tuition.
Yes,
It was never fully funded for the longest time.
right, exactly. And so this year, you know, came down to 57%. That's how they were able to pay all the claims by lowering the percentage per district. We have some students that are in the pipeline for out-of-district placements. We estimate the prorated cost to be $400,000 if they were to all receive placements this year. We're expecting the prorated cost because we're in the winter of the school year, about 414,000.
Is it still 8 students?
I think it was between 5 and 6.
It's gotta be 5 or 6, can't be between them.
I will.
Can't.
So has that number increased since our last,
No,
we've been like that since the beginning of the school year, correct?
Well, there are a couple things that are going on. One is, that the potential additional cost is going down as we get further along.
Right, last time.
Right, but we've had a couple of, and those were for, you know, we were looking at specific students who are already here. But we've also had, you know, other students come.
So did that add?
It's added on the top bullet there. That top bullet there,
Yep,
that's where those additions are.
but is that included in this 5 to 6 students, I guess is my question.
No, those are still ones who are existing.
Okay.
that number was higher, the dollar amount was higher before.
Right, because there was more school months left in the school year.
Yeah.
Right. So where it says out of district transportation increased by 0, that's just since last month, right?
Yes.
Because overall, we have an increase in our budget, don't we?
Yes,
And how much are we over budget in that yet?
Show in the previous slide.
Right.
Which one, the on the previous slide? From the year to date?
it's 200,000. I will get the exact number
That's
for
it.
you.
So it's approximately 200,000.
Yes,
Over budget?
over budget.
Are we transferring money tonight into that?
Oh, no.
So the last slide I have on this topic is about the prepaid tuition. So our prepaid, as we saw more claims or more expenses, that decreased our prepaid tuition for next year down to 400,000. We still have the 466,000 in the circuit breaker available for prepaid. That gives us $866,000 available for prepaid.
Projected as of today,
As of today.
or as of now.
Yeah, and then obviously things change and we'll update that number every month.
And in prior years, we would prepay how much? $1 million what?
$1,250,000.
But we
Yeah.
came into this year 500,000 short than what we did before.
Right.
But we're over budget everywhere else, so. We're over budget in the special education, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we technically don't have that, we pay.
Yeah, that's why the 395, as you saw, this last period, that's directly decreasing our prepaid. So we went from 800,000 the month before, now we're down 400,000. We still, out of that 866,000, if we were to spend the money on those out of district placements, that are pending, potentially pending. Our prepaid tuition will decrease down to 451,000. So,
Can I ask a question on those students?
yeah,
So those are special needs students that by law have to have access if we could find a facility. I know the facilities are full, correct?
Yeah, they're either,
The programs aren't available.
they're either in two different categories. One, they've gone through the evaluation process and are waiting for a placement. And then you said, may or may not find one. Or there are students who are going through the evaluation process.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then so then determined, then they have got to be determined, that could be determined to stay here, or could be determined to go out. But they're a little earlier in the process.
And if they stay here, they'll still have an expense potentially if we have to pay them.
potential.
Yeah, depending on what the
Yes.
IB process.
So if we're in four of school, how long do those evaluation processes take?
It depends, because there are a few of them. One are, you have everything from that's internal, and that depends on, the testing, and how much testing has to happen and how long that takes. But that could be a shorter one, say maybe 30 days. But then you have to also then come to agreement with the family, and that sometimes can take longer, just varies.
Right.
But then you also might have a need for a 45-day placement that's outside, and so you're getting an outside evaluation, and that can take longer, obviously. Because then you do that evaluation, and then you go through the IEP process with the family in terms of that. So there's a lot of variables there that are getting back to that timeline.
Okay.
I just have one thing to say, which is, the more our prepay serves as a version of a contingency. And the fact that we came into the year with that lower. And now we also are looking at further overages, which makes us go into, obviously the school committee or the special education contingency is there for this. But the school committee contingency is not necessarily there for this. Right? And I just want us to make sure we are very careful about what getting into a situation we really don't have any reserve/contingency. And we are literally, every time we have a need, we have to ask for more money. If we don't have that prepay, I just want to make sure when we, whenever we're talking budget, reminding the city council and the city that the prepay is built into school districts' ability to do, because they know school districts need this system to keep up and to be protected for special education for us.
Right. It also, the prepaid tuition is an offset for the special education tuition budget next year. So if we don't have that offset, then the size of the increase for FY25 will be higher, because we'll need to increase that budget for tuition, out of district tuition, so much greater, because we won't have the offset.
And they're big numbers.
Yes, they're big numbers.
Yes,
The big numbers, and I can say in the years I've been on the committee with you, we haven't been in this. I mean,
It's been a while. I do remember one winter, we were very nervous about out of district. The unexpected, what do we call it? The unexpected expected overruns. Because we were tight also on budget at that time as well. So every new situation created concern for our budget.
yeah, and when other districts are having the same
Yeah.
experience.
No, I'm reading about neighboring.
Yeah,
that
neighboring.
Towns have.
Yeah.
Where they talk about dipping into their reserves.
But do they have prepays? Not many school districts have prepays like we do,
Different
but they have a different type of.
different districts do it. They use circuit breaker and prepaid in different ways.
Okay.
So, we use prepaid, and we also use our circuit breaker. We hold our circuit breaker till the following year after we get it.
Right.
Okay. And other folks, are doing what we're doing more of, last year and this year, which is, you're using circuit breaker the first year you get it, okay? So folks just do it in different ways.
Right.
And both of those in terms of how you use circuit breaker I think they're equally common.
And some do half and half.
Right. Yeah. So that's the piece that's sort of, and then whether or not you do prepay, is another variable. But folks do it in a variety of ways.
Well, it's kind of deceiving, when you look at the budget and if you don't understand that, it looks like we are not spending all our money,
Right.
right?
As
To the
opposed to-
average Joe Schmo that looks at a budget and says, well, you have prepaid at the end of the year, why did you spend that?
Right.
They don't understand that that's built into the next budget, and we expect to have that every year that we do have that.
Right. Exactly.
So I don't like the word prepaid because we count on it more than it's not a bonus by any
Right.
means, we
No.
struggle to get
Yeah,
that.
no, I mean, it's a planned expenditure,
Right.
you're
Exactly.
planning it into the budget, for the purposes that you've said, and yeah, it becomes very difficult when you have to wait for that.
I think one of the keys is for people to understand that special education costs are
Exactly.
uncontrollable. We don't know. We don't know how many special ed students that will need to outplace in a given year. So it's a big variable.
And then the other reason on that is that they're mandated by law, we can't not. Should know this.
Bill Melvin, did you want to talk? I can't see you.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Just for Gary, the extraordinary circumstances circuit breaker. What does that look like, and what does that? I mean, how much could we squeeze out of that, if anything? Is that even possible for us to do?
Extraordinary relief is the extraordinary relief, which is the spring timeframe, is probably make a low bet on that one. Okay,
Okay.
a lot of districts will apply for it because they're under the same situation we are with increases. The increase you have to qualify is very, very high, and then you're only qualifying for what's above that. So we may actually reach the threshold, but probably won't be much above the threshold. Okay.
Right.
So you qualify for not much of a additional payment.
All right, and there could be 100 other districts in the same boat.
It could be, yeah, and also just one other piece here, what is that, just recently the state approved a supplemental budget. And in that was, I think $75 million for special education costs,
Yeah.
We didn't qualify. Okay,
Wow.
Our increases weren't to a sufficient level compared to our net school spending to make us qualify.
Right.
But I mean, Gary is absolutely right to pursue it and to make sure we have all our ducks in a row to pursue it. I just don't want to give folks false hope.
Right.
Yeah, and I just reiterate, if there's money available, I want to make sure that we try to receive it if eligible.
All right. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
My concern is just the kids that are waiting. Like they've been waiting,
Yes.
so I don't know what expedites that, I don't know if it's the normal course that they're waiting. I just
You mean in the
kept our
pipeline?
eyes on these kids for months now, even before the school year started, right? Didn't they
Yeah.
exist before the school year started?
Right after,
Some did, some didn't.
Back
Yeah,
in July, we talked. or
some
June.
did, right, that's true.
So it's a long time.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
But we're not, I'm only saying this because that's how I understand it, but they're not getting placed because there's no spots. Is that correct?
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, so I mean, like, there's some students who, we've applied to different places and no available spots. Some students who are in the process of being evaluated and identifying and may need a placement. Okay, so
Right.
you just have different folks in different parts of the process, basically.
Yeah.
But we do have, so I don't wanna.
Okay.
You have a, very small number of students who, we are actively and have been actively looking for the appropriate place for them.
All right.
So in the meantime, we do the best we can with what resources we can
Yes,
give them, is
that's
that how
exactly
that
right.
works?
Yeah.
Exactly right.
We do the best we can until, the placement is secured.
Okay, anything else?
I just have, budget transfers
Yeah.
to,
I'm in on special.
oh, sorry.
We're gonna move on to.
Okay. We have two transfers this month. The first one is, to pay for new supervisors contracted with the YMCA. We have been doing this, for the last several years now. And, we typically, move some money into the contracted service line item. And that's because they're not our staff would be paid out of the salary budget. But a new supervisor contracted would be paid out of a different account number. So we're moving money from the salaries to the contracted services to pay for the invoices that we're receiving from the YMCA.
We don't fund that line item to begin with, we just transfer money in it, or we underfund it?
Yeah, each year we've been determining the contract amount based upon how many individuals we need.
Yeah.
So that fluctuates each year. And then once we've contract and sign the agreement, then we come up with the number, then we move it from salaries
So we
to,
won't see this again
right.
This year.
this year.
We may see it next year. We'd like to start in salaries, but then it depends on hiring, how hiring goes.
Yeah.
And then we'll do the second, we can do both at the same time.
Second one is, we're joining the city's network. And we're moving money within the tech department, just moving money from tech supplies to tech contracted services. And this would be more efficient for us to be on the city's network and that cost us less money in the future. This is to enable it to be connected to the city. We have to spend some money.
So we're working with a contractor who helps us make that transition.
I thought
That makes
they
sense.
needed us to do something. I thought the city improving their tech system meant using the schools, or it was gonna be based at the schools or something.
Well, they have, one point last year we discussed whether or not the city's data hub would be at East Veterans. I think that might be the current number. Now, a big chunk of it's here,
Okay,
behind in this building. But there's also, there's security, we have a lot of intermingling with the city. So on security, on broadband, fiber, and also phones. This one might be phones, I'm not quite sure. But we're getting sort of more and more aligned with and more of a single approach on some of these things. So, but just to be clear, this isn't money that's going to the city, this is money that's going to a contractor who helps us integrate more with the city.
okay.
Exactly.
Didn't the city also benefited from a grant money that we received, which helped improve their technology?
No, I think it's the other way around, as the city applied for, I think it's the other way around, a very large grant, and then we were both on it, both
Okay.
benefit.
Alright.
But I think it, there's also the E-rate, which obviously is our effort to get that reimbursed, funded rather. I don't know to what extent the city benefits from that though.
Right, so you have two transfers. Does someone want to make a motion?
I move that we approve the transfers as presented.
Second,
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Roll call vote?
Kathy?
Yes.
Bill?
yes,
Melissa?
Yes. It's unanimous, the transfer. It's to recommend to the full school committee to transfer.
Okay, so the last item we have is building use. And you had wanted to talk, put that on the agenda. You wanted to look at some youth organizations, and look at what we're charging.
So when we had our, I think it was either our last meeting or the meeting before, or a combination of both, we were initially talking about the application process and how do we do that. We learned that it's a simple clicks online to get access to the application. And then that had led to a discussion where I believe both of you, meaning Ben and Gary, were gonna meet with the DPW to talk about who they charge, what they charge for ground use. Because we were hearing a lot of inconsistencies.
Yeah.
And then we also saw inconsistencies in what we were doing, so that led us to, let's talk about this more, see what's going on. And also learn that, any fees that, not that we learned, we knew this, any fees that are paid by the organizations, that money goes to the city, not the schools. Schools do not benefit. And, so we were looking for consistencies, and that amount was less than 10,000 per year.
Right.
total That the city gets from the use of youth using our facilities.
Right,
So we're talking about $10,000 or less
right,
that are collected from youth fees in total that we charge on our side for the inside facilities as opposed to the field.
yeah, so why there was inconsistencies, there is a chart that the school committee and BNF had approved. In the city DPW department was looking at that sheet, but then saw some fees that we were submitting that were less. And that had to do with the exceptions that we brought to the school, the BNF committee, and the BNF and the school committee approved reductions in the fees that were for high-use youth organizations. And in the agenda, or right in the packet, are the exceptions. So we met with DPW, myself, the superintendent secretary. We met with Mark Cole, and we reviewed, these are why there were some discrepancies, because they didn't have this approved exception list. And so we got on the same page, and these are the youth organizations that utilize our facilities many times. And as you saw, as we discussed last year at this time, the fees were significantly more than what they had paid in the past. And so we came up with a long-term fee amount per day or per use. And you'll see those on this slide here.
So can I just interrupt that?
Yeah.
Bill Melvin, correct me if I'm wrong, because you weren't at the meeting last week, and this is why I looked up to Bill. So it's the inconsistencies this isn't what I was hearing. This is a different type of inconsistency.
Okay.
The inconsistency I'm talking about, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the city wasn't necessarily charging the youth to use fields,
Oh, that's
right? They were selective in who was getting billed. Is that how you remember it, Bill Melvin?
Well, yeah, I think from my perspective, if there's an issue, it's not the charge, it's, are we being consistent between the city and the schools? And
Exactly.
I'm
Not
not-
the fees.
I'm not sure what, whether that's happening or not.
And then we found out cheerleaders weren't being charged at all. And they're a youth sport and they're not on this chart.
Wrestling should be on.
Wrestling, I think wrestling was being charged, but cheerleaders were not being charged. And then last meeting, when you put it forward, you were charging 1/3 the fee because they're using 1/3 the.
No,
gym.
that was not.
That was a not, okay,
Yeah, it was a not.
okay.
Yeah, that wasn't,
So it just
Yeah.
seems
so
to me
I-
that the
hold on.
inconsistency isn't anything we're doing wrong or anything we're doing here. It's
Oh.
that the access of the youth using the school facilities as a whole, whether it's fields or inside, and I know that means
Yeah.
who is in charge because
Right.
city's in charge of fields. And it not being consistent to equitably throughout all the youth programs. In other words, baseball might not be getting charged,
So,
but yet we're charging in the schools. So I think that's the type of inconsistency I was referring to, not the fees itself. I know we did a lot of work on that.
right, okay, so I don't think, so a couple things, I don't think that was clear to us,
Okay,
okay, and also we don't have that information.
right. Although I didn't know if you spoke to him about it.
No, I mean,
For
no,
DPW.
because, you know, as our intended way to operate is they charge for fields, we charge for our buildings, okay,
Right,
for
right.
use, okay? We have never, I mean, since I've been here in our work with, you know, last year, have ever talked to them about what their fees are. We don't control those,
Right,
we don't have an impact on those, but I'm happy to learn what those are, okay? But I'd be hesitant to try to determine or dictate what those are,
right,
okay? Now, if they're doing, as you know, when we
Yeah.
started this process, I was very clear, like, I want to have very consistent schedules and charge all organizations consistently,
yeah.
rather than
Yeah.
what often happens, which is like, you know, different stories, different people, different organizations, and who you know, okay? Now, I don't know if DPW doing that or not, but I sounds like, I mean, I don't even have the information, I can't speak to it.
right.
You have information, it sounds like, that we're not aware of, it'd be helpful for us to get that information, but if they're charging folks inconsistently, no.
But the way I see it is we have groups, especially like Special Olympics. I mean, they don't charge their members a fee to apply to Special Olympics. I talk to the moms that have children on that all the time. They don't pay a fee. I don't know how they're paying their build and use fee. I believe it's probably through fundraising, maybe some federal grants that they get, but they don't charge like it's a basketball, signing up for basketball and there's a fee. And then they use that money for expenses. That's not how Special Olympics students. My concern is that, first of all, this money does not benefit the school at all. This goes to the city. So we wouldn't see a loss. And we have organizations that all are under the term youth. Some are paying to play and some aren't, and it depends on where they're playing. And it's my understanding, this doesn't take into account the custodial fees. That's in addition to those
Right.
fees too. So
Yeah.
my perspective going into this, knowing that we're talking about $10,000 or less,
Mhm.
is I would like to just see the youth pay their custodial fee. Until the city and the DPW as a whole can work together and be consistent. Because this is the chatter in the community. We live in a small community, and when you hear one team's not paying or Joe Schmo waived that use of the field for this group, but not that group, that's causing issues. I get it that we can be consistent and are probably doing the right thing, but until all our facilities and all our youth programs are being equally charged or not charged, I want to see going forward that we waive these fees until there's a chart or a conversation between the school and the city that lays out a plan that is equitable and consistent, knowing that revenue goes to the city side for the use of keeping up the facilities, I understand. But right now, that $10,000 is more frustrating and causing problems than it is benefiting us as a pricing schedule. That's where I'm coming from. I don't know, Bill, I don't know Kathy,
Is
but
it
that's where I'm.
fees that are causing the problem or inconsistency?
It's
Two very different things.
If you told me that you met with the DPW and the DPW consistently charges for every youth that uses the fields, because we don't have control over the fields, and that they're paying, like these groups are paying us, then I have nothing to complain about. But that's not the fact at all. And the fact that the cheerleaders have been going years without paying, but yet the girls' basketball has been paying, that's an inconsistency that's an issue with me. And when you look at the bottom line and we're talking about $10,000 that doesn't even come into our budget, I just want to see it all waived until someone can figure out something that's fair and equitable for all the youth groups. I see the youth groups as taxpayers of Gloucester, most of them. I know some kids come in from other cities and towns. But the majority of the kids that we're talking about are Gloucester students to begin with. Because the youth programs in Gloucester have diminished. I mean, we used to have how many football teams and now we have one for youth football, right? So the less you charge for a fee, more kids can sign up because they don't have to pay a fee. I just don't see this $10,000 problem helping us. And that's all I'll say on it, but that's where I'm at.
I have questions on cheerleading. Cheerleading happens within our buildings.
Mhm.
So why are they not on the same process of getting a charge from us? And who would be making the decision to not be
Yeah.
making that stuff? I mean, our whole intent with policy was to take away any subjectivity.
Right.
Right? And to come up with policies that we thought would be reasonable, encouraging youth to use our buildings, cover some of the wear and tear, even if it's minimal. I know the youth organizations charge a fee. And probably should, to the extent that, you know, they have programs where people who can't pay can still participate. So I'm still in agreement with our fee schedule that we came up with. But if there are some subjective decisions being made, it would be great to know who's making them, not by name. What entity is making them and why? Because I haven't heard anything like this, so no one's come to me to say we're being, you know, and I think we solved it last year, we're talking, you know,
Yeah.
for the basketball. The girls versus boys and everything else, but you know, wrestling's not on here. It would just be good to know that our procedures are in place. And
We
we,
don't get money.
and we're pretty,
We haven't heard. the
so
claim
not
so
with
far.
Melissa, I
Okay.
haven't left to be with Melissa to
Yeah, no, no.
say, stop
So-
charging.
So.
I would like to
But it's the
understand.
first I've heard that cheerleading isn't being charged, okay? And not that, not that I'm, you know, very involved on this, but that's the first time. And if there are other youth groups that aren't being charged to use stuff that we have control over, that we oversee. I like to we should know about those and then it's then determine if that's, you know, if that's what's happening. Okay, and how's it happening? But I don't know any of that yet, okay? So I think that would be important, I think, also see Bill.
Bill's hands up.
Bill, go ahead.
Yes, baby.
Yeah, I think there's just some inconsistencies between, you know, what we're doing and what the city's doing. And if we can clean that up, then maybe the fee schedule stays. But I also think that it's evident, and we've seen it in some of the youth organizations that I'm involved in, that kids nowadays are getting priced out of being able to partake in youth sports. And one of the things we did in Little League last year is we just opened it up to pathways. So we sent information to pathways. We promoted the league in pathways, and kids that were involved in pathways got to play for free. And I just think you just hear too many stories about, hey, we're paying $3,000 and so-and-so's not paying half that, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. The other thing that kind of is a little bit of a point of concern is that from my point of view, kids being in a gymnasium at West Parish from 6 to 8 versus being on a baseball field are two different things. Like the baseball field is going to get, unless they take care of it after they're done, it's going to need more maintenance than a basketball court being run over by a bunch of fifth graders. So I think that, and I don't know, I just think we need to take a look at, hey, let's be consistent. And like Melissa said, if the money's not coming to the school, why not just turn the whole thing over to the city then and just say, here's the fee schedule, you guys run it.
So in looking over the MOU that's in place.
It's
Okay,
not signed.
which is an old MOU,
It's not signed.
okay, well, there's one that's signed, anyway. it does actually say that they're held in separate accounts.
Yeah.
Now, it's never been acted on that, I get that, okay. You know, I'm hoping that we continue to make progress on revising the MOU. Okay, I spoke to legal counsel, you know, probably 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago. You know, so, but I don't even, I mean, so I gotta hear you in terms of effort and charging, and then we don't have any benefit. Okay, that's not the way the agreement is written, it's what we've been acting, okay? But I guess I would like, some time to hear directly from both of you who, you know, have said that this is happening, and tell us who it's happening to, and we can then, you know, dig down to see where it's happening and to what extent.
So I
Because
think,
it's hard to act on, you know, people have told us.
Right.
I just can't, yeah, I don't know. I mean,
but I think it's hard to rely on me and Bill saying what we've heard too. I think it would be easier if you found out who in the DPW is responsible for scheduling the fields and charging the fields and sending out the bills, right? There has to be somebody that does that.
Well, that's actually changed this
Right.
year, it's different.
Okay,
So actually it's changed, so
okay,
then that's
so
what it is
whoever
that,
that is and whoever it was, they know who they're charging, who they're not, and what they're collecting and when. So that's the answer, right? Whether it be a new person this year versus who was there last year, unless they created a new policy, right? That's where your information is from them, not me and Bill.
well,
I mean, yeah, we're telling you we hear inconsistencies, but for us to come forward and try to find specifics.
no, I'm just, listen, I'm just asking for.
And I'm trying to help you,
Yeah,
not do anything
yeah.
else.
But having me go to a city department and question what they're doing, okay, rather than coming in with specific examples of the concerns, okay. Going with specific examples helps,
Yeah,
okay, so I'm not, you know, so just.
yeah, no, I know where you're at, I
So-
understand, yeah.
Maybe it's a
Rather
matter,
than a vague concern, you know, that just never goes well, you know,
Well, let me throw out an example. Well, because you mentioned baseball, why don't we look at boys baseball and compare it to boys basketball?
Yeah.
And then, well,
Or softball,
yeah, we'll take one or two and then go to them and find out what the fees are and then bring it back here for further
Yeah.
discussion.
I think it could be as simple as
Sorry.
soccer, no, but I think it could be as simple as boys basketball used O'Malley. You know, the past 3 weeks, and what's the process for them to get billed?
and now they
Girls
do that.
cheerleading have been using Gloucester High School, what's the process for them to get billed? And if you don't have an answer on that piece, that's one piece of information we want.
Yeah, and I don't think
Those are our
anybody,
buildings, correct,
sorry.
right?
I
Yeah,
don't think,
there's-
There are buildings, but it's not our revenue.
But
I don't
but
think
they bill, right, DPW bills.
DPW bills.
Right,
yes.
so if we have fee structures in place for the school spaces.
Do
that's
they-
our-
Do
But
they?
if, but why would they be able to then override our fee structures and not bill? If we put it in place.
No, for the
people-
fields though, so we
No,
don't
but
have
cheerleading-
control over the
But you
fields.
said cheerleading happens here in the high school
It does.
and it's not getting
Well,
billed.
that's a different issue, so that's us not being consistent. I'm more concerned about the consistency with youth that are using the fields versus youth that are using inside the schools, and that's not equitable. The cheerleading, I think, is a fluke thing, I don't know how that
Okay.
happened,
I'd like to look into it.
so I think that.
Well, we can do both. We
Yeah,
can,
exactly,
we can look into that cheerleading example and
but
find
I just
out.
think it needs to be fair for all or waived for all. There's no picking and choosing who gets charged and who doesn't,
Right.
the way my mind works.
Yeah, well, yeah,
These are
why don't
kids.
we,
We're not talking about adults, these are kids.
why don't we bring you back some information?
Exactly, yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, of course, I just want to
Yeah,
know, I
all
just
the
like a
time you
little help in
Yeah,
knowing
yeah.
which information to ask about,
Yeah,
okay?
whatever you need.
Yeah, and both of you said you've talked to people, I'd just like to know specifically, not the people, but the programs you're talking about that aren't being treated fairly, so we can begin there.
Well, I think like Gary said, start by looking at the baseball and the softball and see what they've been charged. And how many times they use the field for practices and games. And how that gets paid.
baseball and softball.
And they don't have to pay for custodians, right? Or do they have to have a custodian because bathrooms are inside? No, because they have bathrooms over there. So they don't pay custodial fees.
Yeah,
It's more about equity than anything else, nothing.
yeah, and that's important.
But,
Yeah.
you know, if we look at baseball, the Little League does a lot of maintenance of the fields. So it's probably not apples to apples in terms of using the gym versus using that field. So that might not be the best sport to pick,
But what,
because we know.
but what
they-
maintenance are they doing? What's the basketball team doing for maintenance in the basketball court? They're not waxing the floor.
No, that's my point, is that we may. All I'm saying is if we're charging for the basketball court, but maybe they have a different arrangement for the Little League fields. It's the entire arrangement that might feel okay
Yeah.
on a city side.
Mhm.
Versus. Is everybody using our gyms and everything being charged? Being charged according to the schedule we get. Right?
See, I look at it, it's either a youth fee or not, because you have many school districts out there that don't charge for youth fees. So it's not the individual agreements, because that's getting into the, okay, well, this one gets that treatment, this one gets that treatment, and there goes your equity, right? So that's why, knowing that this conversation is less than $10,000 hit to a budget or $10,000 revenue, is it worth all these little agreements, side agreements that are going on? So that it may not be fair to someone. That's my issue. I mean, if you told me this was bringing $100,000 revenue into our school budget, I'd be like, okay, how do we treat this, right? But it's $10,000 a year going to the city, and then we have this issue because of it.
Yeah.
Is it worth it? Knowing that these are kids, not necessarily adults using it. So, but I also believe in wear and tear being fixed too, so. When paying the custodian, can we get this to adjust a custodian fee? Or a nominal fee, I don't know. But there's work to be done for them.
Work to be done.
And we'll continue this conversation
Continue.
when you find out.
Right,
It's not a rush, it's just
okay,
the topic of concern and we should find out.
absolutely.
Bill's hand's still up. Bill, just talk.
Yeah, nobody wants to be the person that says, oh, you know, so-and-so is getting charged. Nobody wants to see any organization, especially one that involves all,
Last year.
Lost them.
have to pay extra. It just doesn't make any,
I think we
Yeah,
heard
so
half of what you said,
just
Bill.
nobody. Yeah, nobody really wants to see youth organizations get picked apart for something that they had nothing to do with. Nobody's gonna say, hey, cheerleaders, you owe us, you know, $4,000 because you were in the gym every night. I mean, to me, it's just as easy to just say, hey, waive it and be done with it. And because there's so many, like Kathy said, there's so many variables. Little League just spent $25,000 on a machine to take care of the fields, and we just bought a second one to take care of fields on the other side of the city. Maybe including Nate Ross, the high school field, to help do that. So
I was
There's
gonna say,
just
are
too
you
many
doing school
variables.
fields, Bill? Is the Little League taking care of school fields? Or just fields in
Well,
the
we might-
city?
if the high school said, hey, can you guys drag Nate Ross with that new machine of yours? Of course we do that. There's be no question about it. And we don't even own the Little League fields. The city does. We just maintain them. So, you know, I just think it's too messy. Just say, you know what? Just waive the fees. It's not that much money. That's my new way, my new line of thinking is it just doesn't make sense to me. And if the cheerleaders want to be in there every night, have at it. No problem. But you start saying, oh, this group's not paying, this group's paying, this group goes through the city, this group goes through the school. It just gets too convoluted. So that's my thinking. But
Okay.
I'm happy to point out some examples or show some examples, but I don't know if that's productive. I'll be happy to do it though.
Okay,
Okay,
to be continued.
to be
We
continued.
continue.
Thank you. All right, so any action items? No, anything to come before BNF, any new business or anything we want? New?
Oh, no, it's gonna be on new business in January.
Oh,
when we get
yeah,
into
I know, I was just gonna
budget.
say that.
Any new business. And remember, we have a budget priority meetings coming up in January. You have the calendar for that, but we'll also share that. I think it's the 11th, the 18th, and the 25th. So those are when different departments or schools come before the BNF subcommittee to set up the budget process, the priority for the budget process.
So.
Okay.
Feels like it was yesterday.
It does feel like it was yesterday. Oh, it was like a long time ago. Feels like
Um,
yesterday.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Anthony,
Yes.
Bill? Bill?
Bill, would you like to
Yes.
adjourn?
Yes.
Melissa?
Thank you, yes. Good night, thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Night, thank you.
Thank you for your
Stephanie, you really need to talk more.